My stepsister ruined every relationship I had, so I made her watch me steal her fiancé. It started when I was 15. Danica would befriend my boyfriends, play the sweet little sister act, then slowly poison them against me. She'd text them late at night, confiding fake problems. She'd show up at their houses uninvited, wearing my clothes. By the time they broke up with me, they'd already be halfway in love with her. She did this 4 times before I turned 20. Mom married her dad when I was 13, and from day one, Danica made it her mission to take everything I had. My friends, my clothes, my college acceptance letters that mysteriously went missing. When I confronted her, she'd cry to our parents about how mean I was, how I never accepted her as real family. They always believed her. The worst part? She never actually wanted these boys. Once they were hers, she'd ghost them within weeks, bored now that the game was over. I'd see them around town looking confused and heartbroken while she moved on to sabotaging my next relationship. Then she got engaged to Brennan. He was perfect for her, honestly. Came from money, worked in his family's law firm, had the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers. She paraded him around like a trophy, posting constant updates about wedding planning, her ring, their future. For once, she seemed genuinely happy. That's when I got the invitation to be her maid of honor. She asked me in front of both families at Sunday dinner, tears in her eyes, talking about how she wanted to finally bridge the gap between us. Everyone applauded. I smiled and said yes while my stomach turned. 2 weeks later, I engineered a chance meeting with Brennan at the coffee shop near his office. I'd done my research, knew his schedule, his favorite drink, the cases he was working on. When I sat down next to him and casually mentioned a legal article he'd written, his eyes lit up. We talked for an hour. I wasn't trying to seduce him that day. I was gathering information, learning his vulnerabilities, finding the cracks in his perfect relationship with my stepsister. But I noticed how he never mentioned Danica once during our entire conversation, how he seemed genuinely lonely despite being engaged to someone who posted about him constantly, how he kept refilling my coffee and finding excuses to extend our time together. The second meeting was planned too, and the third. By the fourth, he was the one texting me first, asking to see me, making up reasons why he needed my opinion on things. I told myself I was just messing with her, proving I could. But somewhere between our late-night texts and the way he looked at me like I was the only person in the room, it became real. He started missing wedding planning sessions. Danica would call me, frustrated, asking if I'd seen him. He's probably just stressed about work, I'd say, while he was sitting across from me at dinner. Last week, everything came crashing down. Danica showed up at my apartment unannounced and found Brennan's jacket on my couch. The look on her face when she realized what had been happening, pure devastation mixed with rage. For the first time in our lives, she was the one who'd lost. "How could you?" she screamed. "How could I?" I laughed. "You've been doing this to me for 7 years." She called our parents, who immediately took her side. Extended family chose camps. The wedding was postponed indefinitely while Brennan moved his things to my place. I thought I'd feel victorious. Instead, I felt hollow. Because last night, I caught Brennan texting someone named Violet, the same way he used to text me when he was with Danica. Same late-night messages, same secretive smile. This morning, Danica showed up at my door. Not crying, just calm. "I need to tell you something about Brennan," she said. "Something I should have told you before you wasted your time." I let her in because honestly, what did I have to lose at this point? She sat on my couch, the same couch where she'd found his jacket, and pulled out her phone. "Violet isn't the first," she said, scrolling through screenshots. "There was Andrea during our engagement. Before that, someone named Claire when we were just dating, and probably others I never found out about." The messages were damning, identical to the ones he'd sent me. The same compliments, the same vulnerability, even the same typos that I'd thought were endearing quirks. "Why didn't you leave him?" I asked. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Because I was playing my own game. I knew about Andrea, confronted him, he cried, promised it would never happen again. Then I saw an opportunity." "What opportunity?" "You." She looked at me directly. "I knew if I made myself the perfect fiancé on social media, paraded him around, made him look like the ultimate prize, you'd want him. It's what I've always done, right? Take what you have. So I figured you'd try to take what I had." My stomach dropped. "You set this up?" "Not exactly. I didn't orchestrate your coffee shop meetings or force him to cheat. But I knew his type. And I knew yours." She leaned back. "I was already planning to leave him. His family's law firm is being investigated for fraud. They're going to lose everything within 6 months. The partners know. That's why his dad was pushing so hard for the wedding, wanted to lock down my trust fund before everything collapsed." I felt sick. "So you just let me take him?" "I let him think he was getting away with something. And I let you think you were winning." She stood up. "The difference between us? When you stole my boyfriends, I was hurt. When you stole Brennan, I was relieved. You did me a favor. Then why are you here? Why tell me this now?" She walked to the door, then paused. "Because despite everything, you're still my sister. And because I need you to understand something. Those boys I took from you, I didn't actually want them. But I wanted to hurt you because you had something I never did." "What's that?" "Mom's love." Her voice cracked slightly. "She married my dad, but she never loved me like she loved you. I was the obligation that came with the package. You were her daughter. Real family. I'd never seen it that way. Mom did favor me, made excuses for me, believed my side of things. I'd thought she was just being manipulated by Danica." "That doesn't excuse what you did," I said. "No, it doesn't. And what you did to me doesn't excuse your choices either." She opened the door. "But at least now we're even. You took something I had. I made sure what you got was worthless. After she left, I sat in the silence of my apartment. Brennan's things were scattered everywhere. His expensive watch on my nightstand, his law books on my shelf, his whole life slowly creeping into mine like a parasite. I picked up my phone and checked his location. He was at a coffee shop downtown, the same one where we'd first met, where I'd engineered our chance encounter. I drove there and watched through the window. He was sitting with a young woman, dark curly hair, bright smile. She was laughing at something he said, completely captivated. I recognized the look on her face because I'd worn it myself just weeks ago. He leaned in close, touched her hand, gave her that smile that made you feel like you were the only person who'd ever mattered to him. I went back to my apartment and started packing his things. Every shirt, every book, every piece of evidence that he'd existed in my space. By the time he came home at midnight, everything was in boxes by the door. "What's going on?" he asked, that concerned furrow in his brow that I'd once found charming. "Violet called." I lied. "Said you left your other watch at her place. The expensive one from your father." His face went pale. "I can explain. I'm sure you can. You're a lawyer. You're good with words." I handed him his jacket, the same one Danica had found. "But I don't need an explanation. I just need you gone. Come on. Don't be like this. We have something special." "Yeah, so special you're developing it with multiple women simultaneously. Very efficient." He tried the tears next. The same ones he'd probably used on Danica, on Andrea, on Claire, on whoever came before. "I made a mistake. You're the one I want. I left Danica for you." "No, you left Danica because I was new and exciting. And now Violet is newer and more exciting. And in a few weeks, there'll be someone else." I pushed the boxes toward him. "Also, I know about your family's firm. About the investigation. Danica told me everything." The tears stopped immediately. His face went cold, calculated. "That's confidential information. So sue me. Oh, wait. You'll probably be disbarred within the year." He grabbed the boxes, the charming mask completely gone now. "You know what? You and Danica deserve each other. Both of you are manipulative psychos." "Probably," I agreed, "which is why you fit right in." After he left, I opened every window, trying to air out the space. But it wasn't enough. His presence had seeped into everything. I'd have to move, start over somewhere he couldn't find me. I called Mom for the first time since the engagement blew up. "I'm not talking to you," she said immediately. "What you did to Danica was unforgivable." "I know." Silence on the other end. She'd probably expected me to argue, defend myself. "I need to ask you something," I said. "Did you love me more than her?" More silence. Then, "Where is this coming from? Did you?" A long pause. "You're my daughter. She's my stepdaughter. It's different." "That's not an answer." "Yes," she said finally quietly. "I tried not to. I tried to love you both the same. But yes, she knew. I know she did. I saw it in her eyes every time I took your side. Every time I believed you instead of her." Mom's voice broke. "I failed her. And I failed you by not seeing what my favoritism was doing to both of you. She set me up," I said. "The thing with Brennan, she knew he was a cheater, knew I'd fall for it. That doesn't surprise me. She's smarter than all of us give her credit for." "I'm sorry," I said, "for everything. I'm sorry too, for not being fair, for not protecting both of you from each other." We sat in silence for a moment. Then Mom said, "Danica called me yesterday, asked if we could have lunch, just the two of us. First time she's ever done that. You should go." "What about you?" "I'm moving, probably out of state. I need to get away from all of this. Running away won't fix what's broken inside you." She was right. But staying wouldn't either. 3 days later, I was packing up my bedroom when Danica showed up again. This time she had coffee, 2 cups. "Thought you might need caffeine," she said, handing me one. We sat on my bedroom floor, surrounded by half-packed boxes, and drank in silence. "I had lunch with Mom," she said finally. "How was it?" "Weird." "Good." She cried a lot. Apologized for things I didn't even realize bothered me. She told me. Danica picked at the carpet. "I spent 7 years trying to hurt you because I thought if you had nothing, maybe she'd love me more. But it doesn't work like that." "No, it doesn't. I'm sorry," she said. "For all of it. The boyfriends, the sabotage, everything. I'm sorry too. For Brennan. He wasn't worth it anyway." She smiled slightly. "His firm's collapse is going to be spectacular. They're talking federal charges. Karma. Or just consequences." She stood up. "Where are you moving?" "Portland. Got a job offer there." "Good. Fresh start." She walked to the door, then turned back. "For what it's worth, I hope you find someone who actually deserves you. Someone you don't have to steal or manipulate into loving you. Same to you." After she left, I found an envelope on my coffee table. Inside was a check for $15,000 and a note in her handwriting. "For moving expenses and therapy. We both need it." I never cashed the check, but I kept the note. Portland was rainy and gray and nothing like home. I got an apartment in a neighborhood where no one knew me. No one knew my history. I started therapy like Danica had suggested. Turns out, 7 years of warfare with your stepsister does some damage. "Tell me about your childhood," my therapist, Dr. Reynolds, said in our first session. "Which part? Before or after my mom married a man with a daughter who hated me?" "Let's start with before." I talked about my real dad leaving when I was 8, about Mom's string of failed relationships, about feeling like I was never quite enough to make her happy. "So when your mom remarried and brought Danica into your life, how did that make you feel?" "Threatened, like I was being replaced." "And when she started taking your boyfriends?" "Vindicated, like I was right to feel threatened." Dr. Reynolds wrote something down. Did you ever consider that maybe Danica felt the same way? Threatened and replaced? I had, eventually. But admitting it felt like losing. 4 months into my Portland life, I met someone at a bookstore. His name was Owen. He was reading poetry in the corner, completely absorbed. I accidentally knocked over his coffee while reaching for a book. "I'm so sorry," I said, grabbing napkins. "It's okay. I was done anyway." He smiled. It wasn't Brennan's calculated smile. It was genuine, reached his eyes. We talked about books for an hour. He didn't ask for my number, didn't try to impress me, just talked about what he was reading, what I was reading, why poetry mattered. A week later, I saw him at the same bookstore. Same corner, different book. "Do you live here?" I joked. "Basically, it's quieter than my apartment. Roommates are loud." We got coffee, then lunch, then dinner over the next few weeks. He was a high school English teacher, had no family money, drove a beat-up Honda, and had never played games with anyone in his life. On our 5th date, I told him everything. About Danica, about Brennan, about the 7-year war that nearly destroyed both of us. "That's a lot," he said. "Too much?" "No, just honest." He took my hand. "Thank you for trusting me with it. You're not going to run?" "Should I?" "Probably." He laughed. "I don't scare that easy." "Besides, it sounds like you've already done your running. Maybe it's time to stop." 6 months later, Owen met my family. Mom drove up from California with her husband. Danica came too, surprisingly. She'd been dating someone named Chris, an elementary school teacher who coached Little League on weekends. We all had dinner at a restaurant downtown. Awkward at first, everyone carefully avoiding certain topics. Then Danica's boyfriend told a story about one of his students bringing a pet snake to class, and somehow that broke the ice. By dessert, we were almost normal, almost a real family. "I like him," Danica said to me while the guys talked baseball with my stepdad. "Owen, he seems genuine." "He is." "Good. You deserve genuine." She paused. "Chris is too. Genuine. It's weird dating someone who just says what they mean." "Yeah, it is." Mom watched us from across the table, tears in her eyes. Happy ones for once. That night, back at my apartment, Owen asked, "Do you think you and Danica will ever be really close? Like actual sisters?" "I don't know. Maybe. We're trying. That's more than a lot of people do." He was right. We were trying. It was messy and uncomfortable, and sometimes we still fell into old patterns. But we were trying. A year later, I got a text from Danica at 2 a.m. "Brennan got indicted. Federal fraud charges. Thought you'd want to know." I wrote back, "Karma's real." Apparently. Also, I'm getting married. Chris proposed. "I want you to be my maid of honor. For real this time." I stared at the message for a long time. The last time she'd asked me to be her maid of honor, it had been a trap. A performance for our parents. "I don't know if I can do that," I typed. "I get it. But I'm asking anyway. No pressure. Think about it." I talked to Dr. Reynolds about it in my next session. "What's holding you back?" she asked. "Fear, I guess. That it's another game. That she's still trying to hurt me. Is that what your gut tells you?" My gut told me Danica had changed. That we'd both changed. That maybe we'd finally grown past the people we'd been when we were trapped in that house together, competing for scraps of our mother's attention. "No," I admitted. "Then maybe you should trust that." I texted Danica back. "Okay, I'll do it. But if you're planning some elaborate revenge, at least make it interesting." "Deal." Also, Chris has a single brother. Not setting you up, just mentioning it. "I have Owen. I know. But his brother is funny. You'd like him. Stop matchmaking. Never. It's my new thing. Healthier than sabotage." The wedding was small. Just family and close friends. I stood next to Danica as she married a man who looked at her like she hung the moon. No calculation, no games, just love. During the reception, we found ourselves alone at the bar. "Thank you for being here," she said. "Thank you for asking me. I mean it. I know it wasn't easy. Nothing about us has been easy." She laughed. Truth. We clinked our glasses together. Not friends, maybe never friends. But not enemies anymore either. Somewhere in between. Sisters, maybe. Finally, Mom pulled us both aside later, mascara running down her face. My girls, my granddaughter, all together. "Don't make it weird, Mom," Danica said, but she was smiling. "Too late," I added. "It's already weird." And it was weird. Beautifully, messily, complicatedly weird, but it was ours. This strange family we'd fought our way into becoming. That night, flying back to Portland, I texted Danica, "I forgive you, for all of it." She wrote back immediately, "I forgive you too." It wasn't everything. Forgiveness doesn't erase history or undo damage, but it was something. It was a start. Owen proposed on a rainy Tuesday in October. No big production, just him and me in our apartment cooking dinner. "I know it's only been 2 years," he said, "but I can't imagine my life without you. So what do you say?" I said yes. Danica was the first person I called. "Finally," she said. "I was wondering when he'd ask. You knew he was going to propose?" "He called me last month, asked for my blessing." "Well, not my blessing exactly. More like making sure I wasn't going to sabotage it." "What did you tell him?" "That I'd break his kneecaps if he hurt you." Very sisterly of me. I laughed, actually laughed. "Thanks. That's what family does, right? Threatens bodily harm to protect each other." "I guess so." My wedding was bigger than Danica's. Owen had a huge family, and I'd made friends in Portland who actually felt like friends. Real ones, not the kind Danica used to steal. She stood next to me as my maid of honor, for real this time. During her toast, she said, "I've known the bride for 12 years, And for about 7 of those years, we hated each other. Everyone laughed nervously. But somewhere along the way, we figured out that hating each other was exhausting, and that maybe, possibly, we could try something different, like not hating each other. More laughter. So here's to trying something different, to second chances. And to Owen, who's either very brave or very stupid for marrying into this family. Owen raised his glass. Little bit of both. After the wedding, after the guests left, after Owen and I collapsed into bed exhausted and happy, I checked my phone. There was a text from Danica. You looked beautiful today. I'm glad you're happy. I wrote back, thank you, for everything. What's everything? For being my villain arc, for teaching me what I didn't want to become, for forgiving me when I became it anyway. Dramatic, but accurate. It's late. Go to sleep. You too, married lady. I put my phone down and looked at Owen sleeping next to me, at the ring on my finger, at the life I'd built far away from the chaos of my teenage years. Danica was right. We'd both been villains in each other's stories. We'd hurt each other, manipulated each other, tried to destroy each other, and somehow we'd both survived. Maybe that was enough. Maybe we didn't have to be best friends or close sisters. Maybe we just had to be two people who understood each other's damage and chose not to inflict more. That night, I dreamed about being 15 again, about Danica taking my first serious boyfriend, about the hurt and betrayal I'd felt. But in the dream, instead of plotting revenge, I just walked away, found someone new, moved on. When I woke up, I realized that's exactly what I should have done all along. But if I had, I wouldn't have learned what I needed to learn. About myself, about love, about the difference between winning and actually being happy. Owen stirred next to me. You okay? Yeah, just thinking. About how sometimes the worst things that happen to us teach us the best lessons. Deep thoughts for 6 in the morning. Sorry. Go back to sleep. He pulled me closer. I'm good right here. And for the first time in my life, I was good right there too. Not because I'd won something or taken something or proved something, just because I was exactly where I wanted to be. 3 years later, Danica called me from the hospital. I had a baby, she said, voice exhausted and happy. Congratulations. Boy or girl? Girl. We named her Lily. That's beautiful. Thanks. Listen, I know this is weird, but Chris and I were talking about godparents, and we want you. I sat down, genuinely shocked. Me? Yeah, you're my sister. You've seen me at my worst, and you're still here. I can't think of anyone I'd trust more to help guide my daughter if something happened to us. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Yes. Of course yes. When I flew down to meet baby Lily, I brought a gift, a photo album I'd made, filled with pictures from our childhood. The good moments, the rare times when we'd actually gotten along before everything turned toxic. I didn't remember we ever smiled together, Danica said, flipping through it. We did, sometimes. Before we learned how to hurt each other. She held Lily close. This tiny, perfect thing who had no idea about the complicated history of the women surrounding her. I don't want her to grow up like we did, Danica said, competing for love, feeling like there's not enough to go around. Then we'll make sure there is enough, for her and for any kids I have someday. You and Owen trying? Soon, maybe next year. Our kids will be close in age. They'll probably be friends. Or they'll hate each other like we did. Let's hope not. But even if they did, I thought, maybe they'd figure it out eventually. Maybe they'd fight and hurt each other, and then, years later, find their way back to something resembling family, because that's what Danica and I had done. Against all odds, despite everything we'd put each other through, we'd found our way back, not to the family we'd started as, but to something new. Something we'd built ourselves from the broken pieces of our shared history. As I held Lily, this tiny representation of second chances, I thought about who I'd been at 15, hurt and angry and convinced that Danica had ruined my life. She had, in a way, but I'd also ruined hers. And then we'd both decided to stop ruining each other's lives and start actually living them. Thank you, I said to Danica. For what? For being terrible to me. For making me terrible. For giving me someone to fight against until I learned how to fight for something instead. She laughed, the baby stirring in my arms. That might be the weirdest thank you I've ever received. Yeah, well, we're weird sisters. The weirdest. Mom walked in then, tears already streaming down her face. My girls, my granddaughter, all together. Don't make it weird, Mom, Danica said, but she was smiling. Too late, I added. It's already weird. And it was weird. Beautifully, messily, complicatedly weird. But it was ours. This strange family we'd fought our way into becoming. That night, flying back to Portland, I texted Danica. I forgive you, for all of it. She wrote back immediately. I forgive you too. It wasn't everything. Forgiveness doesn't erase history or undo damage. But it was something. It was a start. Owen picked me up from the airport, immediately seeing something different in my face. How was it? Good. Really good. And Danica? She's good too. We're good. Finally. We drove home through the rainy Portland streets, and I thought about all the years I'd spent locked in battle with my stepsister. All the energy wasted on revenge and one-upmanship, and trying to prove I was more lovable, more worthy, more everything. What a waste. But also, what a lesson. Because now I knew the difference. Between winning and being happy. Between taking something from someone and building something with someone. Between revenge and peace. Brennan had been my revenge. Owen was my peace. And Danica had somehow become both my greatest enemy and my most important teacher. I love you, I told Owen as we pulled into our parking spot. I love you too. What brought that on? Just grateful. For you. For this life. For getting out of my own way long enough to find it. You sound like you've been in therapy too long. Definitely. But it's working. That night, I started writing everything down. The whole story, from beginning to end. Not to share with anyone, just to remember. To see how far I'd come from that 15-year-old girl who thought her stepsister was the villain of her story. Turns out, we were both the villains. And both the heroes. And both just messed up kids trying to survive in a blended family that nobody knew how to blend. Years from now, maybe I'd show this to Lily. Maybe I'd tell her about her mother and her godmother and the war they fought until they figured out how to stop fighting. Maybe it would help her understand that families are complicated. That love isn't always simple or pure or easy. That sometimes the people who hurt you the most can also teach you the most important lessons. Or maybe I'd just keep it for myself. A reminder of who I was and who I never wanted to be again. Either way, the story was over now. The war was done. And somehow impossibly we'd both survived.